AITA for silently exposing that my wife was having an affair with her own sister's husband? I arrived home like any other day. I tossed my keys on the counter and went into the kitchen. She was on the couch, legs crossed, looking at her phone. She didn't even look up. I walked over to the table to put my things down, and I saw the two mugs. One still had steam coming off of it. I asked, without thinking much, who was here? She looked at me like she didn't know what I was talking about. What? She said. I pointed to the mug. Who was here? She answered quickly, too quickly. It was the gardener. I offered him coffee. The problem is, we don't have a garden. I knew it then. I didn't know what, exactly, but I knew something was wrong. I didn't argue, didn't ask any more questions. I just said, oh, okay. And I went to take a shower. That night, I pretended I was tired. I slept with my back to her, my stomach churning. We had been married for 5 years. We met in Austin, Texas, and moved to Denver together for my job. She worked from home, freelance graphic design. We didn't have kids, but we talked about it all the time. Or rather, I talked. She felt. She always seemed tired or distracted when I mentioned having children. She said it was stress, that the time would come. I believed her. After that night, I started paying more attention. Little things. She'd laugh to herself while looking at her phone, change the screen when I approached, go out more than usual for shopping trips that never seemed to produce anything. One time she went out in a dress she only wore for weddings or special dinners, supposedly to go to the supermarket. I didn't say anything, not yet. I'm not impulsive, I'm not violent, but I'm not stupid. 3 weeks later, I made up a story about having to travel to Houston for work. It was a lie. I stayed in a motel near downtown. From there, I started monitoring her location with the family app we had for safety. We'd always had that, ironically. That night, her location showed a house in the suburbs. The address sounded familiar, but I didn't know why until I checked our old messages. It was her sister's house, meaning the house where her sister lived with her husband. My heart sank. I didn't want to think what I was thinking, but I couldn't ignore it either. I opened her Instagram and looked for pictures of them. In most of them, he was hugging his sister, yes, but there was something in the way my wife looked at him. I hadn't noticed it before, or I didn't want to notice it. That night I struggled to sleep, chest tight, jaw clenched. I felt anger, but also a kind of sadness I didn't know how to explain, as if I had already lost something before confirming anything. The next day I returned home as if nothing had happened. She hugged me, told me she missed me, asked me how my trip went. I said fine. I showered. I made love to her that night. I don't know why I did it. I guess it was my way of saying goodbye, even though neither she nor I knew it yet. That's when I started planning. I wasn't going to yell, I wasn't going to cry, I wasn't going to beg. I was going to destroy them both. After that night, I didn't touch her again. It wasn't a conscious decision, I simply couldn't. Every time I got close to her, the image of her in that house with him came to mind. I imagined her kissing him, lying with him on the same couch where we had watched movies together, all 4 of us. Her sister, him, and me. It made me want to vomit. I didn't confront her, didn't make a scene. I started acting as if everything was fine. That was the most messed up part. Smiling, making coffee for 2, kissing her before leaving for work. All fake. I felt dirty, but I needed time, I needed proof. I wasn't going to be just another guy who gets cheated on and looks like an idiot. I got a friend who works in IT to help me clone her phone without her knowing. He didn't ask many questions. He showed me how to automatically back up the contents of her phone to a hidden account that only I could access. Messages, photos, location, everything. It took me a few sleepless nights and a lot of paranoia, but I did it. 2 days later, I could see everything she was doing on her phone. Reality hit me harder than I thought. There were messages, lots of them. Conversations with him, the brother-in-law, for months. Flirting, photos, videos. I remember one in particular, where she was sitting on his lap in what looked like the sister's garage. He had his hand around her neck, and she was laughing. There was a phrase I'll never forget. "Do you think your sister suspects anything?" And she replied, "Only if you scream my name when we're all at the dinner table." My hands were shaking. The computer almost fell to the floor. I felt nauseous. I cried. I'm not ashamed to say it. I locked myself in the bathroom, covered my mouth with a towel, and cried like a child. I couldn't believe the person I slept with every night was doing that. And with him, with her sister's husband. That's when I confirmed it wasn't a mistake, it wasn't a fling. It was something deeper, more rotten. They were in love, or they thought they were. They talked about running away together, finding an apartment for the two of them, telling the truth when the time came. She even said that everything with me was routine and that she only stayed out of pity, that she didn't want to hurt me. What a screwed up irony. At that point, I didn't feel love anymore, only fury. But not the kind of fury that makes you break things. It was a cold, dry fury, like a poison slowly coursing through you. I told myself, I'm not going to yell at them. I'm going to take away everything they value. So I started documenting screenshots, archived conversations, downloaded videos, all stored in an encrypted folder. At the same time, I started getting closer to her sister. Not because I was interested, I actually felt sorry for her. She was a good person. Sometimes I was even ashamed to look her in the eye. But I started seeing her more often, offering to help with things around the house. The jerk was spending a lot of time away lately, supposedly working overtime. I already knew what he was doing. One Saturday afternoon, I pretended my wife had forgotten her phone at home. I went to her sister's house with it in hand. I knocked on the door. She opened it, confused. She smiled at me. What are you doing here? I showed her the phone. I told her I had found things I needed to talk to her about, alone. We sat in the kitchen. I showed her some mild things first, phrases, little messages. At first, she thought they were jokes. Then I showed her the photos. And then the videos. She didn't say anything. She just sat there staring at the screen, her lips pressed together, her jaw trembling. When I finished, she stood up. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just said, I need to be alone. She asked me to leave. I told her I understood. I left her a copy of everything, in case she wanted to use it legally. That night I couldn't sleep, not because I felt guilty, but because of what I knew was coming next. The next day, she, my wife, texted me from the supermarket. Do you want me to pick up anything for dinner? I pretended everything was fine. I told her yes, to bring wine. She said, I love you. I replied, I love you too. Not out of love, but because I knew that in a few hours everything was going to explode. That Sunday was the last normal day, at least in appearance. She came home with the grocery bag, the wine in hand, smiling. She hugged me from behind while I was cooking, as if she didn't know anything. As if she hadn't been sleeping with her sister's husband for months. As if she hadn't erased me from the emotional map a while ago. I didn't react. I didn't pull away. I didn't say anything. I just served the food and talked about irrelevant things, the weather, work, a TV show we were watching. When she looked at me, I felt like she was spitting in my face without knowing it. But I held back. It wasn't time yet. After dinner, she showered and went to bed. I stayed on the couch with my phone in hand, waiting. I knew something was going to happen. And it did. I got a message from her sister. It just said, thank you. I talked to him. You'll hear from me tomorrow. My fingers trembled, but I didn't reply. I left the phone on the table and sat there listening to the silence. I could hear her breathing from the bedroom. She slept soundly, and that sickened me more than any insult. That someone capable of doing all that could sleep as if nothing was wrong, as if her world wasn't about to crumble in a matter of hours. Monday, everything exploded. I received a call at 11:23 in the morning. It was her, the sister, crying. She told me she had kicked him out of the house, that she had seen more things, that she checked his email, that she confronted him. He denied everything at first, but when she showed him the photos and messages, he broke down. He confessed that yes, they were in love, that they had been seeing each other for over a year, that they didn't know how to break up with us without destroying everything. What irony, right? The part that messed me up the most was what she said next. The worst part isn't the betrayal. It's that she was always my parents' favorite. She always got away with everything. And me, the stupid one who did everything right, ended up losing everything. She hung up without saying goodbye. That afternoon, my wife arrived earlier than usual. White face, swollen eyes. She closed the door and stood in front of me. Did you know? She said. I didn't say anything. She sat in the chair opposite me, her hands shaking. She called me names, yelled at me, told me I showed her things, that I ruined everything. I replied calmly. I didn't ruin anything. You did. Then she started to cry, but they weren't tears of regret. They were tears of fear, of having been caught. What are you going to do? She asked. I told her what I had already decided. Nothing for now. But I want you to know that I have everything saved. Messages, photos, videos. Enough to destroy you publicly. I haven't done it, but I could. And if you ever threaten me, Mess with me, or treat me as if this is my fault. I will. Do you understand? She nodded without speaking, her lips trembling. I gave her a sheet of paper with a list of conditions. Silence, no legal disputes, a quick divorce, no claims on assets. I was going to keep everything that was in my name, and she was leaving with her things, period. If she didn't accept, the content was going straight to her family, her clients, social media. She signed. I don't know if it was out of fear or because deep down she knew she deserved it. That same night, I watched her pack her suitcase. I watched her from the bedroom doorway. She didn't cry anymore. She was dry, dead inside, as if she had been emptied. She asked if she could stay on the couch until the next day. I told her no. No. You can't sleep peacefully in the same house as the guy you cheated on with your brother-in-law. Get yourself a motel. She left without saying anything. She closed the door, and for the first time in months, I felt at peace. Broken, but at peace. I thought that was it, but I was wrong. What came next was worse. A few days passed without hearing from her. I didn't call her. I didn't look for her. The silence was heavy, but necessary. I was still in the house, alone. The place still smelled like her. Her shampoo, her cheap perfume that pretended to be expensive, the coffee she liked to leave half-finished on the table, as if someone else was going to finish it. I didn't sleep much the first few days. I stayed awake staring at the ceiling. Sometimes I thought about everything we had lived through, and I felt like a fool. Other times I laughed to myself because there were signs everywhere and I didn't want to see any of them. Willful blindness. But what bothered me the most was the idea that they saw me as a weak guy, as the quiet, predictable husband who would never do anything if they walked all over him. But then something happened that I didn't see coming. Her sister called me again. This time she wasn't crying. She sounded colder, more controlled. She told me that he had left the house, but he hadn't gone completely. That he was sending messages, asking for forgiveness, talking about a second chance, saying it had been a mistake. A mistake that lasted over a year, of course. Then she asked me something that left me speechless. Do you think she loves him? I didn't know what to say. I had never thought about that. I always saw it as a betrayal, an act of selfishness, of cowardice. But real love? Did she love him? I said I didn't know, that I didn't care. But it was a lie. I did care, because if she loved him, then everything we had was a farce. A week later, I received an email from her. Not a message, not a call, an email. As if we were two strangers who barely knew each other on LinkedIn. The subject line said, "I want to explain." And the body was a wall of text with cheap excuses disguised as honesty. She said she didn't know why she did it, that she was confused, that it started as a mistake, and she didn't know how to stop it. That sometimes she felt that I was too good, and that made her feel small, mediocre. That he gave her a sense of power that she didn't feel with me. All that in an email. I read it 3 times. The last time without emotion. I found it pathetic. It didn't anger me. It didn't break me. It just confirmed what I already knew. She never deserved everything I gave her, everything I put up with, everything I bet on someone who didn't even know what she wanted. I didn't reply. But that same night her sister wrote me again. She was starting to sound paranoid. She told me he was driving by the house, that he had found out that I had given her the messages, that he had asked about me, that he wanted to talk. She was scared, and so was I partly. Not because I was afraid of him, but because I knew what desperate people could do. 2 days later, I saw him in front of my house, in his car, parked with the engine running. He didn't honk, he didn't get out. He just sat there with a vacant look. He saw me. We looked at each other for a few seconds. I didn't do anything, didn't even acknowledge him. I closed the door and went back to sit on the couch. And that's when I decided to end it all. I called my lawyer and asked him to speed up the divorce process. I explained that I didn't want anything from her. No assets, no money, no explanations. I just wanted the signed papers and silence. Then I sold almost everything in the house. Sofa, furniture, paintings, appliances, everything. It reminded me of her. In a week, the place was empty. I left only the basics, a bed, a table, a chair, and a coffee maker. I felt better that way, as if every item that left was one less piece of that rotten past. She kept writing me. Short messages, desperate attempts to talk, like adults. I never responded. I found out through a mutual friend that she had moved into a small studio near downtown, that she wasn't seeing her sister, that she was alone. Good, that's how it should be, I thought. I thought that was the end of it all. But I still didn't know that they were still seeing each other. Even though they no longer lived together, even though they had supposedly separated, even though everyone had turned their backs on them, she was still seeing the guy who wrecked her sister. And when I found out, I understood that this wasn't over. I don't remember exactly who told me. I just know it was someone who had no reason to lie to me. An acquaintance of those you don't see often, but who appear when you least expect it. He just blurted it out, like it was just another piece of information. Oh, I saw them together at a coffee shop in Cherry Creek. Her and the brother-in-law, well, ex-brother-in-law, I guess. They were holding hands. I didn't say anything. Not, oh, okay, not a grimace. I swallowed the anger, smiled as if it didn't matter, and changed the subject. But inside, something snapped. After everything that happened, after destroying 2 marriages, 2 homes, 2 lives, they were still together. And it didn't bother me because of jealousy. What bothered me was the level of cynicism, the audacity to continue as if nothing had happened, as if their betrayal hadn't left a hole in the middle of everything, as if shame didn't exist. That night, I didn't sleep. I went over everything I had done so far. I had been patient, I had been strategic, I had acted with a cool head. And they simply continued together, calmly, in public, as if life had given them a free pass. That's when I changed the plan. I didn't want to remain silent anymore. I didn't want to be the one who took the high road, because that road, honestly, doesn't do a darn thing when the other person doesn't even try to hide what they are. So I went for the only thing I had left, the truth. And not mine, the one that others didn't know yet. I started with her parents. They had always had this perfect image of their daughter, the intelligent, mature, stable girl. It was difficult, but I managed to get a meeting with them. I told them it was to talk about something important before signing the divorce papers. We met at a quiet restaurant on a Wednesday afternoon. I brought them an envelope with printed copies of the messages and screenshots. I didn't tell them much. Read this. It's between her and your other daughter's husband. You deserve to know. At first they were in shock. The mother started to cry silently. The father turned red, didn't say anything. I left everything on the table, paid the bill, and left. A week later, I heard from her sister that the parents cut off contact with her, that they didn't want to see her, that they were trying to repair the bond with the daughter they still respected. It was hard for them, of course, but the decision was clear. The betrayal was too much. She wrote me 2 days later. It wasn't to ask me to come back, not even to insult me. It was just one line. Why did you do that? I read it many times. I struggled to understand how someone so blind can live with themselves. I replied, for the first time since all of this, because you earned it. Not everything gets swept under the rug. She left me on read. Weeks passed. I began to rebuild myself in earnest. I changed my number, I changed jobs, I moved to another place, near Boulder, a small, quieter apartment. Nobody knew me, nobody asked me about her, nobody remembered me as the betrayed husband. I thought I had finally closed the chapter. Until one day, coming home from work, I found a note under my door. It had no name. It just said, I know you thought all this was over, but I need to see you. I can't take it anymore. I'm alone. It's not what you think. And below that, the brother-in-law's name. Not hers, his. That's when I realized they had broken up, that darned romance had lasted just long enough to destroy everything and then explode. And that now the jerk wanted to talk to me. Why? To clear his conscience? To say he was sorry? To ask for my forgiveness? Or worse, to ask me not to expose him to his circle too? Because what no one knew was that he worked for a public company. In adultery, there isn't just a moral problem, it's a career problem. And guess who still had the videos, the photos, the messages, and even a copy of his work schedule from when they sneaked around together? Me. And I no longer felt guilty about using any of it. I stared at that note for a few minutes. Not because of what it said, but because of who wrote it. Him, the guy who slept with my wife in his garage while his wife and I were having barbecues in the backyard like 2 idiots. The guy who greeted me with hugs, talked to me about football, called me brother. That son of a bitch now wanted to talk. I didn't respond, didn't even think about it. But I didn't throw the note away either. I kept it. 2 days later I saw him outside. He was in his car again, not in front of my house this time, but parked half a block away, as if he were spying. I went downstairs, walked towards him without saying anything. He saw me in the rearview mirror and rolled down the window. I need to talk to you, he said. I looked at him. He had a grown beard, red eyes, dirty hair. He looked like a dog that had just been kicked. What the heck do you want? He was silent for a few seconds. I'm destroyed, man. I have no one. She left me, my wife won't talk to me, my in-laws hate me, my parents don't even know what I did. I lost everything. I listened to him, but I didn't feel anything, just a strange disgust, as if I were facing vomit that could talk. And what does that have to do with me? I said, I just needed you to know that I regret it, that I don't know how it happened. It was all messed up. At first it was a game, then it was confusion, then it was too late. Don't play the victim, jerk. You did what you did, no one forced you. Yes, I know, that's why I came. It's not for you to forgive me, just don't screw me anymore, okay? They told me you showed them everything, that you ruined her life, that her parents cut her off. And what did you expect? A trophy? A second chance with her after blowing up your wife's and my life? He remained silent, looked down. Just don't share those videos, please. I could lose my job, and I have nothing left. And that's when I laughed, for the first time. I laughed heartily, because I understood. That was what hurt him, not what he had done, not the people he destroyed. It was his job, his image. And then I said, without raising my voice, without hatred, almost as if I were doing him a favor. Listen to me carefully. I have all that saved in more than one place. If you or she come near me again, if you try to manipulate, threaten, play the victim, I'll send it all. Not just to your bosses, to your family, to the local press if necessary. Are we clear? He didn't answer me, just nodded. I patted the roof of the car and walked away. That night, I slept for the first time without waking up at 3 a.m. with my heart pounding like crazy. But it didn't end there. A few weeks later, I learned from her sister that he had been fired. Not because I sent anything, not yet. It was because of a conduct issue at work. Apparently, he had argued with a superior. They sent him for evaluation and things came out in the process. Someone else must have found out about his double life. The guy went into a tailspin. No job, no partner, living in a rented room in Aurora, they told me. And her, well, she started calling me. Silent calls, messages with no text, emails with empty subject lines. She was tracking me, looking for me like someone looking for a life raft in the sea after stabbing the only one who could save you. And then I got a letter from her mother, handwritten, 3 pages. She apologized, said she didn't know how she raised someone capable of doing what she did, that she was sorry, that if I ever needed anything, I shouldn't hesitate to call her. I read it many times, not because it gave me peace, but because it gave me clarity. I didn't do anything wrong. I was betrayed, lied to, manipulated, and yet I didn't publicly humiliate anyone. I didn't take revenge with violence. I didn't ruin their lives. I just left them alone with their decisions. But still, a part of me wasn't satisfied, because she was still free from everything, with her job intact, with her image of a professional, serious, focused woman. And the only thing separating her from hitting rock bottom was that I hadn't released the file yet. And I swear I was one click away from doing it. I sat in front of the computer for over an hour. The folder was there, videos, audios, screenshots, dates, locations, all organized, all verifiable, all ready. I had the email open. I had already written the recipient, her direct boss. And in the subject line, I had only put confidential material related to improper conduct. And there I stayed, with my finger on the mouse, hesitating. Not for her, not for him, not even for what they had done. I hesitated because I knew that if I did it, there was no going back. Sending that email meant ruining her career, her reputation, her livelihood. She would be out of a job, and in her field, corporate communications, that stain never washes out. And I thought, does that make me better than them? I had no answer. And the truth is, at that point I didn't care about being the better person anymore. I just wanted peace. I wanted to stop having this crap hanging over my head all the time. But I also wanted justice, because she was still smiling on social media, giving talks on professional ethics, writing blog posts about emotional leadership, as if everything she did was invisible. So I closed the laptop and went for a walk. It wasn't a walk to clear my head. It was a walk of rage, of pure fire inside. I went without direction, with my phone off. I was out for about 3 hours, and when I returned I had 5 missed calls. 1 from an unknown number, 4 from her sister. I called her back. Everything okay? I asked dryly. No, everything's bad, she said. I need you to listen to me. I sighed. I didn't know if I wanted to be involved in this anymore. What happened now? They fired her. I don't know how. But someone sent material to her boss. They showed her the messages, the photos, everything. She says it was anonymous. It doesn't have your name on it. But she's convinced it was you. It wasn't me, I answered truthfully. And it wasn't, I swear on everything. Then who? I don't know if I believe you, she said. But it doesn't matter, what's done is done. I'm just calling you because she's on the edge. She says she can't take it anymore, that she's taking pills, that she sees no way out. That part stopped me. Not because I still cared, but because I didn't want to carry a corpse on my shoulders, even if she deserved it all. I didn't want to be responsible for her taking her own life. Where is she? In her apartment. I'm on my way there. Do you need me to go? Silence. I don't know. Maybe yes. Maybe she needs to see you. Or for you to say something, something that gives her closure, whatever. I hung up on her. I sat back down in front of the laptop. I saw the half-written email. I deleted it. An hour later, I was standing in front of her building. It wasn't hard to find the address. I had seen it on the notifications from the joint bank account we hadn't completely closed. I went up, knocked on the door. Her sister opened it. She was inside, on the floor, with a blanket over her. She wasn't crying. She wasn't talking. She just looked at me, swollen eyes, messy hair, the shadow of what she once was. I approached, crouched down. What the heck did you expect? I said dryly, without yelling. Not this, she murmured. Not everything like this without consequences. She didn't answer, just gritted her teeth. You ruined everything, everyone. And you still struggle to understand that no one did anything to you. You did it to yourself. She started to cry. I felt sorry for her, but not like before. It was a dry pity, like the kind you feel for a roadkill animal that can no longer be saved. I stood up, turned to her sister. Don't leave her alone. If she continues like this, call someone. And you. I'm out of this story. I only came to make sure she didn't kill herself. That's all. And so it was. I left. I never saw her again in person. Months later, I heard she moved to another state, New Mexico, I think. She started therapy, deleted all her social media, lives alone, no partner, no stable job. Her sister says she speaks little, that she still doesn't understand how everything went so wrong. The brother-in-law, on the other hand, disappeared. No one knows if he's still in the city. His ex-wife, the sister, managed to rebuild her life a little. She's in the process of rebuilding, like me. We've talked more in these last few months than in all the years we were in-laws. There's nothing romantic, just mutual respect, like two survivors crossing the same minefield. Me, finally, I'm at peace. Not happy, but at peace. And sometimes that's enough. Several months passed. I don't think about them every day anymore. Every now and then, a smell, a song, or a poorly told joke brings them back to mind. But not like before. I don't feel that punch in the chest anymore. It's more like an echo, something I lived through, something that happened to me, something that no longer controls me. I haven't had another partner. Not yet. I'm not interested either. Sometimes I go out with someone, have long conversations, share something, but as soon as it starts to look like a relationship, I take a step back. I have a hard time trusting, not because I think everyone is going to do the same thing. It's simpler than that. I no longer have the energy to give something so big to someone who can destroy it without warning. What happened to me changed me. I don't say it with pride. It wasn't a growth experience. It didn't make me wiser. It made me more cautious, more cynical. Sometimes I look in the mirror and I no longer recognize the guy who was excited about children, family dinners, year-end vacations. That guy died the day I opened that folder on the computer and saw my wife sitting on her brother-in-law's lap, laughing like the world was hers. I never exposed them publicly. I didn't send anything to her work. I didn't make any posts or threads or scratches. Someone did it for me, that was clear. I never knew who. Maybe it was her sister, maybe someone else who saw what I saw and couldn't keep quiet. But it wasn't me. And that, deep down, is what gives me the most peace. I didn't carry that cross. I didn't become the avenger. I just put the truth in the right place. Everything else fell apart on its own. I ran into her mother at a supermarket once. It was weird. She looked at me, came over and hugged me. She said, "I'll never stop regretting what happened. I'm sorry for not seeing what my daughter was." I told her she didn't have to apologize. She wasn't the one who destroyed everything. She was just the mother of someone who made bad choices, who lied, who crossed lines that shouldn't be crossed. That hug lasted seconds, but it was enough. If you liked it, Don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.